talking about player prep and how you as a player can come to the table prepped and ready to play, not just with pens and paper, but with ways your character can interact with the game. And one of the players in my game started doing something and it blew me away, and I kind of wanted to shine the spotlight on them. And that player was or is Fabio. How you doing today, Fabio?
I'm doing quite well, Jared. Having a good night. How you doing tonight, Jared?
I'm doing very well. And thank you for being here on this very chilly evening.
It's cold.
Yes. So, Fabio, why don't you tell us what you did and kind of what inspired this conversation of how to be a better player at your table?
Gotcha. For me, one of the best things that I like to do is, or at least a phrase that I love the most is stay ready so you never have to get ready. Right. So by doing that, what I did with all of my characters, or at least the last few that you've all seen, is I made something called the move list. Anybody that's ever played any like fighting games like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or Guilty Gears, each character has like a move list of things that they can do. So I figured that, hey, why don't I come up with lists that I can make up for my characters, so when I'm in combat, I'm in a certain situation, I know what to do. It's like making either, whether it's 3, 4, or in my case, like 10 or 12, pre-ready moves. So just like, oh, I'm here, I can do this. Oh, I'm here, I can do that. Oh, we're in exploration, I know how to do this. And I write them down in a list so it's easier for me to remember, or remembering, oh, this is how this move works. This is what I can do if I'm flanking. This is what I can do if I'm not. And just be ready for when my turn pops up. I'm not bogging anything down with like really staring at the board for 47 minutes and not knowing what the hell to do. So I made a move list.
So we're talking about Fabio's move list. So Fabio, why don't you tell us about your move list and tell us what really goes into that detail on that move list?
So I'll give everybody an example of the things that I have in Henny's move list. So I have it broken up into theoretically 3 things and then a 4th big thing. So the first thing is exploration. Now, if you have a character that's a charisma character, or you have a character that's an intelligence character, theoretically, whatever your key stat is, there's always going to be certain abilities that you excel at better than most other people, right? There's a probability you may not be the best, you may be very good at it. So with exploration, one of the things I have is my perception stat. So I know that, hey, if we're exploring, my perception's pretty good. My stealth is very nice. And at the same time, I have lore and games, demon, and underworld. So I know like, hey, we're out in the world doing stuff and it's exploration. Probably what I'm going to do. Well, I know we're in a crazy post-apocalyptic looking town and we're trying to get from point A to point B. I'm going to scout. So I'm going to go into stealth, go on ahead, and try and see what's going on. If somebody else is like, oh, like for example, Zach's character also excels at stealth. You know what? Maybe I'll get up in the front and use perception because my perception's decent, right? Or we come up upon some crazy ass, demon writing that's graffiti on the walls. What the fuck does that say? Well, I have warring demons in underworld. Maybe I kind of know what that means, right? It means so when certain key things pop up, I'm ready for it, and I don't have to look through all of my skills and be like, the hell does this do? Does this work? Can I flip over this? Can I flip over the writing? Does that help at all? Yes, no, maybe so. Either way. After that, I have combat. So I know what certain things I can do as an action in combat. These are general things like getting into my stance, stumbling, bon mot, right? Fainting, creating a diversion, tripping, disarming, and pickpocketing, right? It doesn't include attacking because we all know what we can do attack-wise, right? But it gives me the other things that I'm, instead of just swinging, because Jared, you know me, I'll go into autopilot and be like, I hit him. What else you do? I hit him. And then what else? I hit him again.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're playing, it's just like, even though hitting is great, maybe, tumbling, maybe, using the bon mot so somebody else can hit him better or screw him up, or somebody can stealth, creating a diversion and taunting, a move that we kind of created off the diversion skill, using that to get somebody's attention or maybe take the heat off somebody else because I'm built like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then tripping and disarming, you all have seen tripping helps. People may think, oh, if I hit him, then he can't hit back. That is true. But you know what helps you hit him? Tripping them. You know what helps other people hitting them? Tripping them. You know what makes it so that they can't hit you easily? Tripping them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Also, the same thing with disarming and pickpocket. Just because why not? I'm going to take a dagger out somebody's pocket, throw it across the room so they can't use it. Fuck them. Right? So, and then the last thing I have is like panache and like my damage. So when I'm in combat, I know, okay, I can do a D4, I can do a D4 plus 2, or I can do 2D6 plus a D4. So I'm just not going back and toggling between where stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
I can look at everything directly and I know exactly what my damage is, what dice I'm using, and how my panache works. So I have my panache that makes me speed 35. Right, I get a +1 to deception and +1 to acrobatics as long as I have it. So now I know. So it's no longer wait. Oh, okay, real quick. I know this is how fast I am. I know that as long as I have panache, my acrobatics and my deception. So if I want to faint again, add a 1 to that. If I'm trying to tumble, add an additional 1 to that. It makes it so that I don't have to add things and do additional math or look at weird little notes that I've written on my character sheet. It just makes it so boom, I know exactly what it is. And then the final thing was, and this is the one that's long, is the advanced maneuvers. And that's just a whole bunch of different scenarios where I can put Henny in. This is how I can use panache. This is how I can move around. This is how I can tumble. This is how I can strike.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote names for each one.
So you got like your own little combo meter just going on there.
And because I'm a psychopath, I have it like color coordinated.
Nice. Yeah, there it is. Look at that. Wow, that's crazy.
Like my move list.
And with panache, without panache, with panache, advanced maneuvers, and color coordinated. Wow.
Yep. So things like this just help me because as great as my memory can be, I will forget how to do things and how my moves work all the time. And I'll tell Jared, oh, add 2 more damage or take out 5. I added too many dice. I messed up. Because I like to play fair. As much as I like the power game, as much as I like to have my character do the most damage or be the coolest or be a thing, we're playing a group game. And part of that requires you as a player to be fair. And one of the things in fairness that I consider is, not hogging up the time on your turn. I want to play a lot. And I'm assuming everybody at the table also wants to play as well. And because that's a thing, I feel like the most courteous thing to do is like being ready, having your moves on hand, knowing what your character can do. And sometimes if you're playing complex characters, that's a lot to remember, right? We all know, that's part of the reason why I don't play wizards. If y'all notice, I don't play a lot of spellcasters unless it's a healer, because I'm like, can I heal and do some other cool stuff? Cool. That's all I need to know. Because trying to remember 18 things or other spells in every scenario can be daunting. But if you have it as a quick sheet or like something that at the ready for when you're in certain situations, it makes you just so like, oh wow, that character is ready and my player is ready. And as a teammate, you know that like, well, Fabio or Henny will know exactly what to do in a situation because I have it either ready. And then if I don't, I'll take a moment just to like try and juke it around using the clues that I have.
So Fabio, you gave us kind of like a clue. You spoke a little bit on what your move looks like, color coordinated. So how would you, because we kind of spoke about it and you were like, I really don't play casters. How would you kind of build a caster version of this? What would you do in that light of being a caster and how they would put together maybe their caster list so that, because casters do take a little longer than your fighters or your marshals. So what would something look like if you were playing a caster, let's say in 5th edition or something like that?
Sure. 5th edition, it's easier just because, you're limited to 1 action. So sometimes you have to be precise or at least know what you're going to do in certain moves, right? So for me, it's always doing, what's your offensive move, right? What's your offensive spell, like your bread and butter, right? Know how that spell works, know the range on that spell. So I'd have that on, like, let's say I'm playing a warlock, the class that Jared cannot stand at all, right? I know everybody goes, oh, Eldritch Blast. All right, fine. You're going to use Eldritch Blast. You should know exactly how far Eldritch Blast can shoot. You should know that if you're over 5th level, you get multiple shots, exactly how many you get. you should know that, oh, what makes that move a little bit better. Oh, if you have hex, or if you have, a move that like bounces off and does damage, or if you have invocations that make it better, have it all on that one spell. So Eldritch Blast, push 5 feet, or Eldritch Blast, plus, my charisma, or Eldritch Blast, plus hex does, a d6 plus a d6. And you have that there on your page, and then you're not trying to remember off the top of your head, because sometimes you'll forget, right? If that's your offensive move, boom. If you have an AoE, like you see a bunch of people clustered, so if you have a cluster move, my blade of knives, cool, right? Or my noxious fumes, right? Or whatever it is that that's going to affect multiple people. Have that spell there real quick, the DC, right? As well as how much damage it does. So then all you have to do is just have it as a quick line, and that could be all your offensive moves. Then you have your defensive moves, right? So then you could have something like Shield Agathar. So you know that boom, something hits me, they get hit, they get hurt. Cool. I have False Life. It gives me more temps. Oh, I'm squishy. Now I can not as squishy, and it's having it real quick. So, your offensive, your defensive. So when you're like, oh man, I need a little bit more HP because things are hitting me. All right, I know exactly what to do. Or, oh man, things are mad far away and I really want to hurt them badly. You know what to do. Or, oh, there's a bunch of people at a door clustered and they're all bad guys. You know what to do.
Fireball.
And having it, Fireball is always super effective. Forget what anybody says. It's like, oh, but they're demons and they don't like fire. Nobody likes fire. Burn them. Burn them all. Burn them. But at least having it down on paper just makes it so you're not always looking through your spell list, right? And then when things get crazy and somebody else is going and you've already exhausted it and you kind of want to do something nuts, then you can look at your spell list. But have your bread and butter moves down, because not only does it make it so that you're prepared when it's your turn, also it makes it look like you have some cool signature abilities. Like everybody knows Ryu's going to shoot a Hadouken, right? But at the same time, he's got the hurricane kick, he's got the the uppercut and everything like that. But the Hadouken's his bread and butter. Yo. Have your Hadoukens ready. Have your spin moves ready. Have your moves ready as casters that affect things offensively from far away when they're clustered, or also have your defensive moves so when you're in a pickle, you know what to do. Like to me, like even as a caster or any other, magic-based person, it's best to have it the ready because you already have a lot to choose from.
Yeah, and even if you're playing a wizard, right? If you're playing as a wizard, you will have an actual spell book, and that's kind of the cool thing. You could color coordinate it. If you're one of those people who are very note oriented, which is an essential player, and I'm going to bring in one of my best players who does great notes in a later video for her video, because her notes are spectacular and always on point.
Thanks.
So it does look like if you're a caster, like, oh man, I have all these abilities. Also, it becomes easier, I feel, and you've done this a few times, because you know what you're doing on your turn. When the turn goes south, you're usually very quick to pivot. And I've noticed, and also I've noticed you're very quick to use items. And that's something, that's a whole different conversation. But I do notice players who are kind of on the ball will use items faster than the players who are assessing the problems as they happen. And they're like, oh man, the problem's happening. And then you always hear, oh man, I should have used that scroll. I should have used that potion. I should have used that ring that I had. But it all comes down to preparation. And as much as a GM can prep 6, 8, 12, 34 hours, 48 hours, if you're not as prepped as the GM, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And that's where you don't want to be, because that's how the GM catches you with your pants down. So with that being said, hopefully we inspired you. Again, this isn't to tell you how to play your game. This is to tell you there are players out there who take very intricate notes and who also apparently make a move list to ruin their DM's day. And
so much fun.
It's so much fun. But, if you're playing and maybe you have a player who is on the phone a little bit too much, right? This might be something that might interest them, because then they could be on their phone and then quick flip to that app, you know, your notebook app, and then now you have your move list and that player is on the ball and they could keep looking at their phone and technically argue that they're playing the game still. And remember, being technically right is the best kind of right, as per Hermes Conrad.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
With that being said, I want to say thank you very much to Fabio spending his cold evening with me. Thank you very much. I always appreciate your time here. And I want to say thank you very much to all of our listeners, subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, now's your chance. Hit the button. We're putting out videos at least twice a week, more or less. If, you know, we happen to be on the ball, we've pretty much been doing that, like 70, I want to say 80%. So that's a pretty good percentage. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. But if you haven't, please subscribe. We appreciate it. If you want, comment down below how you prep for your games as a player. And let's get the conversation starting. And maybe one of your videos, maybe one of your ideas will turn into one of our videos. So with that being said, from all of us here at Nothing Ventured, Nothing Game, want to say we love rolling dice, giving advice, especially when it comes from Fabio, with a little bit of that New York spice. Say goodnight.
Deuces, everybody.